content. Thursday.
Thursday.
Ay. Gotta love not knowing what day it is. I'm so excited for this one. I think this one's so much more fun. I like when we get to dig into more branding elements like this.
Same.
You know, one thing. Sorry, go ahead. Feel like what?
No, I just feel like social media just has it's just in such an interesting place right now with the transitions. And I feel like not a lot of people are talking about it. So I also feel like that's just an interesting approach. It's an interesting conversation.
I agree. As everyone's starting to come in, we're going to just wait a few minutes for some stragglers, but if they're late, they're late. That's on them. So we're just going to keep moving. But let us know where you're from. That's always a super fun kind of conversation starter, icebreaker. There's a chat off to the right-hand side. I already put a comment in there. Just let us know where everyone's from. Everyone who's straggling in now, welcome to Social Media in 2025. Super excited to talk about this today. We're going to touch on a lot of different stuff, so we'll try to fly through everything as much as possible. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or compliments, feel free to drop them into the chat. I was going to say one thing. I know we have a slide in here about some of the new social platforms, and I created a BlueTuskr account about a couple weeks ago to test out what's that thing doing.
Yeah.
I know that actually wasn't on our list, and I was like, oh, you know what? I forgot about that one too.
Yeah.
So we'll have to start playing with that too. It's interesting. It's Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. Everyone who's starting to come in, thank you. We're looking forward to everyone joining us. Gage from Oklahoma. Gage, how you doing, buddy? Thank you. I'm outside Pennsylvania. We had 4 or 5 inches of snow not even 2 days ago, and then it rained, and now it's all gone. So we're into that spring ugly slushy stuff. You're in Mexico right now, right?
I'm in Mexico. That is correct.
No snow.
No snow here. Nope. 80 degrees and sunny. Not to brag. But back home,
freezing
where I'm from, we got I think it was over a foot of snow. So,
gross.
I had to hear it from my family.
It's getting to be that time of year where I'm like, all right, enough of this.
Yep, we're done.
Yeah. Everyone who's still coming in, obviously, thank you so much. I know we have a lot to go over today, so I don't want to wait too long. So I think we can probably get started here. Sound good to you?
Works for me. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So obviously, everyone who has joined so far and whoever is going to be joining us a little bit later, welcome. Today, we are going to be talking about social media in 2025 and how different it is. A lot of conversation around some of the new platforms, some of the viability of the new platforms, as well as we're going to get into influencer marketing, UGC, and how to use it even outside social media. And obviously how to vet those content creators and what to do with that content. So we're going to be digging into a lot of that stuff and a lot of the nuanced stuff too, that a lot of people always have questions about, like how do you find quality influencers versus quantity? How do you find quality content creators versus quantity? How do you find, how do you decipher how you're paying them? What should you pay them? Everyone's rates are kind of just like throwing them in the air. So we're going to talk a lot about that stuff, but we're also going to show you exactly how you can get all of that content and make sure that you're using it in your other marketing strategies as well so that you're getting the best bang for your buck. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, there is that chat there too. But today you are joined by myself. I am Andrew Maftone. I'm the founder here at BlueTuskr. And obviously joining me today, Hannah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Hannah Mladenovich, and I am the own media manager at BlueTuskr. So pleasure joining all of you.
Yes, love it. So some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, we're going to dive into a little bit of like where social is at now. Because if we had done this event last year at this time, it would be completely different. And that's kind of social media. It had its ride for a while where it's like, okay, it's just Facebook and Meta. And then you start getting into Snapchat. And then all of a sudden 4 or 5 years ago, TikTok starts showing up. But now with TikTok kind of up in the air, and then there's new stuff coming in. So it's kind of like there's a lot of stuff going on in the social platforms. So we want to talk about those. We're going to talk about the overall power of influencer marketing and UGC creation and how to use that to help in actual revenue driving initiatives outside of just standard social media stuff. Finding these content creators and influencers and the pros and cons of using platforms and not using platforms, as well as where you can use that creative outside of just social media, which tends to be one of the bigger areas that we always see a lot of brands are missing out on. And then the importance of like just kind of knowing where you're at and getting ahead of things, which we'll touch on as well. We are not just throwing this stuff together. We didn't just decide like, hey, let's start making this thing. So to make sure that you're aware, yes, we are a full service marketing company. We do social media, influencer marketing, UGC, social ads, etc., all day long. We have done it for at this point, we're over hundreds of brands that we've worked with. And over the course of my career, I think I might be up over 500 at this point. So we know what we're talking about. We understand the platforms. We know exactly where we're going. We've done this for a lot of different brands. We got a ton of different case studies on our site too, just to kind of clarify of some of the stuff we've had in the past. But if you're here now, that is because chances are you are exploring how to start using your social media into a better position. You are possibly looking at how you can start leveraging more UGC and influencer marketing into your marketing initiatives, and or you already have a lot of that stuff in place and you're potentially looking to see how you can get more of an ROI out of all of that stuff that you're creating. And there's a bunch of other reasons that you might be here. You might just want to look at Hannah and I, and that's totally fine too, and we appreciate that. As I mentioned, off on the right-hand side, there is a chat, so feel free to ask any questions, comments, concerns, or compliments that you want to put in there. Have at it. We try to keep this as conversational as possible, so if we touch on something that you want us to answer a question for, while we are going to obviously designate some time at the end to answer any questions you have, feel free to throw them in throughout, and we'll try to get to them also. And then at the very end, we are going to be giving away to everyone a completely free Meta Ads review, as well as a 30-minute consultation on the social media side. So basically, you'll get a moment to sit down with some of our team members to look at what are you doing currently and what we would suggest for you going forward, whether that's from a specific social post, social advertising, and or influencer or UGC stuff. And that's all the fun intro-y things. You ready to get into the thick of it?
Let's do it.
The thick of it. I should have gotten a bunch of cool social media memes for this. Throwback to TikTok 4 years ago. So the future of social media marketing. Hannah, would you like to kick us off with this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, as Andrew touched on, social media is constantly changing. I mean, it is different from what it was even 6 months ago, let alone what it was a year, 5 years ago even. And so one thing that we're noticing trend-wise is that brands no longer have the power. So they're saying. And with that, it's all about leveraging creators and leveraging the tools that are being given to you and what consumers are going off of to then make you kind of have that power, not only just from the organic side, but as Andrew touched on as well, on the paid side, and then also your other marketing channels as well. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is leveraging the UGC, leveraging influencers, how consumers are reacting with those creators and influencers, and then how we can leverage it into building out connections, building out your marketing channels, and then overall, just boosting your growth, boosting your revenue, and taking it from there. So
one of the things I always think about too, of like explaining this concept to brands is it's kind of like when you're at a party. Like everyone uses the party analogy for social media of like, okay, this platform is like this person, this platform's like this person, that kind of thing. But when it comes to influencer marketing, it's also extremely similar, where if you're a brand and you are posting content that is like, hey, here's some benefits of my product, here's the benefits of this, here's the benefits of that, it's very much like it's salesy. So it's constant. Here's why my product's awesome. Here's why my product's awesome. So if you were at a party and someone came up to you and all they did was talk about themselves and how awesome they are, you're not going to want to talk to them because they're biased. That's them. They're trying to sell themselves. It's annoying. You don't want to talk to them. But if you're in a group of people and you start hopping around the party and you're talking to a bunch of people and everyone keeps kind of telling you, hey, you should go talk to that person over there, then at a certain point, you're like, that person's got to be awesome. So you're allowing other people to spread your message that, I guess in this scenario, just that you're awesome. And so influencers can do that stuff for you. Even if you're taking influencers, you're taking UGC and you're posting it on your own page, it's still kind of a matter of, it's still like someone else is spreading the message for you. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit like fabricating the word of mouth, right? So that's kind of how we look at, how do we take all of this real life example that, kind of building that fear of missing out by showing all of these different people that are utilizing your product. And that's kind of where we see like a lot of the UGC side is going. And it always tends to be not only the top performer posts for a lot of brands just for organically, but even from a social advertising perspective, most of the time UGC tends to work really well. So what's the difference, right? Like in some scenarios, you have your influencers where it's basically you're leveraging their platform and getting more reach out of it. Or you have the other side of it, which is you're just paying someone to make you some content. But Hannah, I'll let you interject here.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of where we're at right now is with all of these platforms up in the air. Obviously, a month, 2 months ago, it was, is TikTok getting banned? Is TikTok not getting banned? There was a lot of things up in the air of, okay, well, if TikTok does get banned, are we moving back to Meta? Are we moving back to Instagram? Are we going someplace else? Then we see Red Note appear. That got really, really big on TikTok right before TikTok's ban, of moving into essentially China's version of TikTok, which is Red Note. And it's pretty much like, where is everyone settling, right? So then TikTok was banned for about 12 hours, came back online. And now everyone's kind of like, okay, well, do we stay on Red Note? Do we go back to TikTok? Are we just going back to Instagram? Are we going, like, where are we settling? And so to Andrew's point, social media, while it was ever evolving, ever changing, we kind of got into a routine, right? So it's like you had your TikTok influencers, you had your creators on TikTok, and they were graded very differently based off of the creators and influencers on Instagram, just based on the algorithms, the accessibility, things like that. Well, now that everything's kind of changed, we have creators that maybe just completely deleted the app because they really thought it was going to get banned. So now they're just solely on Instagram and they're like, oh, wait, I don't have the reach that I did on TikTok. Then we've got some just going to Red Note and they're like, I'm just going to deuce out of TikTok and Instagram. And it's just a free for all right now. And so where the power right now in the brands is lying is that there's a ton of creators and influencers that are just looking for work. They're looking for deals. They want to have these brand partnerships. They want to get their name out there. They want to have long-term relationships with these brands to obviously keep them busy. And then also to just rebuild their portfolio in a lot of cases as well. And so that's why right now we're in a very, very, very interesting time, because everyone's kind of like, well, where are we going to settle? What's the next best thing? Are we leveraging all apps, just one app? And that's where the brands can really take advantage of bringing in a lot of these creators and influencers, which we'll get into, as Andrew mentioned, the differentiators between the two. And then from there, really begin to foster those relationships and start leveraging them to grow their brands.
Yeah. Did you see that when TikTok went down, I can't remember if it was the downloads or if it was just like the change of language, but the Duolingo had a skyrocketing of people learning Chinese just so that they could use the Red Note app. So like the amount of clear, like people are already preparing to go elsewhere. And as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but like TikTok still they just elongated it still needing to sell. So it very well still could get banned. And then we're back to probably Square Instagram one. And potentially Red Note. And then I know I mentioned for people get frustrated with X and all the stuff going on there. So now there's BlueTuskr and there's all the different ones. So there's so many different ones. And I feel like to me, at least what feels different is like, every now and then a new one will pop up, right? Like there'll always be something. I know I had something else a while. Oh, like threads. Threads came up. I was like, we don't need threads. Like we're fine.
Yeah.
But then like now it's almost like TikTok started getting banned, and then X keeps getting crazier and crazier. And so for the new ones that are popping up, the downloads that they're getting are serious. And so now it's like, okay, your audience is getting really spread out. So that obviously brings us kind of into the new age of social media.
Absolutely. So this is exactly, what Andrew had mentioned with his analogy with the party. It's how do you personally use social media? When you're done with your workday and you're in bed or you're just doom scrolling, what are you looking at? What are you engaging with? And that's something where I feel like as brands and in previous ways of doing social media, everything was branded, right? It was the creative Instagram boards. It was all about the aesthetics. And that's just not where a lot of the engagement is coming from anymore. And it's not to say that you have to go and do TikTok dances or anything like that. It's just the way and the mindset in which that you're framing this content. And so again, to Andrew's point, it's kind of leveraging how you're seeing these creators, whether they're branded or just someone doing a get ready with me, or, hey, here's a tutorial on how I do X, leveraging that type of content to essentially spread your brand's word, whether it be very blatant and kind of like more of an indirect direct sales pitch, or just, product placement, or just throwing out, the brand name or something like that. And so it's really interesting to kind of leverage where these consumers essentially are finding a lot of their inspiration, where they're finding a lot of their entertainment, and using your brand to fit that mold in a way that's still beneficial for obviously your growth, your sales, things like that.
Yeah. The common problem I always see is brands, whether you're working in the marketing department, whether you're the owner of the business and you're running this stuff yourself or anything like that, you're so in the thick of it that you're thinking like a brand, not thinking like the person you're trying to reach. And so by posting heavily designed stuff about how great your product is, it's an ad. You're basically just running an ad. And there's no difference between your social post and your ad. And that's where people always hit this problem. And so like this creator dominated space, you almost think of like your social media profile is almost like your TV channel, right? And it's the shows that you're putting on your TV channel. And your job is to just bring in more viewers, bring in more people that are engaging, and that's it. Don't sell them. That's the big problem. Let your ads do the selling. And so as we get deeper into this, we'll talk about how you actually paint an ROI to all of this, and how you leverage advertising and a few other initiatives too to kind of get more of that type of stuff going. So the content that works, this is pretty self-explanatory. Video is king, has been the case for like, I don't know how long at this point. So anything that you're doing, I'll bet if you look at your results for the different types of posts that you have out there, video is going to be the one that wins. But then it's the types of videos that you get deeper into where you start to A/B test. So like unboxing videos, whether you're doing testimonials, the get ready with me stuff is kind of it works. I know it works. They just drive me crazy. Reviews can work really well. There's different things you got to A/B test, right? Like just like anything else you do in marketing, a lot of people think that like from a social media perspective, I'm just going to get content, throw it up on social, and then that's it. Right? Like but that's not how any marketer should be thinking. What you should be doing is, let me post it. Let me evaluate the data. Let me look at a group of posts that are all very similar, whether that's like a review or a testimonial where I'm basically touting the love of this product, or maybe I'm doing like a how-to video. Those are different. Which ones are giving me the better engagement? Which ones are giving me the bigger reach? Okay. How-tos are doing great. Let me get more of those. And so it's constant little bits of A/B testing and pulling in that data to adjust over time and figuring out all these different types of content that you can create.
Yeah. And one thing with the reviews as well is that doesn't always have to mean, someone standing in front of a screen being like, I love this product, or even just taking a quote. A lot of it too can be, before and afters, or kind of, hey, this is very specific to industries, of course, but this was this before, and now after using this product, this is it after, and having more of that explanation, here's what my routine was. Here's everything that I did. I followed X instructions that was provided by this brand. And then I got this result. And so it's really taking that review concept and kind of, expanding on it a little bit more to create more of that authenticity within that content as well.
Yeah. And for this to be done correctly, you have to have some type of social media scheduling platform. You have to, because a lot of brands, what they'll do is they'll take the content and they'll post it. Now, if you have the bandwidth to have like one person internally solely relying on this, they could do it manually and just post it directly into the platforms if they want to. But the easiest thing to do is to use a social media platform like a Sprout Social or a Hayworker or something like that, where you can actually tag all of your posts saying like, this is a how-to video, this is a testimonial, this is an unboxing or something, and then pulling a report on here's how all of my unboxing videos did, here's how all of my how-tos did, and actually starting to really figure out what content is your audience resonating with. And that's how you figure out the content that works. So I think if you didn't see, I sent you everyone who's on our list today an email yesterday, and I let you know that we decided what we're going to do is actually go through everyone that was attending the event and take a look at the ones that we could see what your brands were. We were going to do a quick review for you and actually go through exactly what we would suggest for people that are attending today's meeting. So we went through a bunch of them. I think we have probably about 7 or 8 of them I think that we're going to touch on. And the first one we looked at was Malvule, which we looked at. We know they are a very high-end cookware company. And we took a look at them. And Hannah, I will let you kind of evaluate what you saw there.
Yeah, absolutely. So just high level, leaning into a lot of your tagged photos in the content. I saw this both on Instagram and on TikTok. There's a lot of unboxing opportunities, a lot of just people that are just showing the product, their excitement of the product just right there front and center. And one thing on the Instagram side that I will speak to a lot of is, when you're getting tagged, I mean, you don't even need to pay for that for UGC, creators. You don't need to pay for influencers for that. That's just people that love your brand. That's just excited. And a lot of what we're seeing as well is people's just excitement to be tagged or featured by a brand. So when you're scrolling through your top brands and you see your story on their story or their post on your story, I mean, that's huge for engagement, and that's something that won't cost you any money. And so that was something, again, it's a larger brand. So inevitably a lot of that content's going to be funneling in, but that's going to be, a very easy win, especially for the brands, that are joining us today that would apply to. Some additional opportunities there is if you wanted to go a little bit more on the formal side, chef and restaurant collaborations, getting in partnership, getting into affiliate with that. But also more on the simplistic side, lifestyle content creators. I mean, there's a ton. I'm on Cooking Talk. I love it because I don't know how to cook. But from the lifestyle content creators, people that are just doing recipes and they just have more, like I said, of that product placement that is there. They're like, hey, this is a pan that I use. And for someone like me that has no idea the difference between pans, that's something where I'm like, hey, I might need to go and get that. Or if it really works for them, or if this is something that they're reliant on, I want to leverage that. And it's something as simple as that. And then even on the UGC side, even going after higher value creators like the UGC content, just given your aesthetic, and the elevation of that luxury premium aesthetic that you have. So leveraging more of those higher end, creators to create more of that, cook with me or, make dinner with me or something like that, where it's a lot more of that higher end video content as opposed to just more of that organic, because there's obviously different spectrums in terms of how the video is being created. But yeah, that's definitely what I saw with Malvule. I mean, very, very easy to get some UGC, to get some influencer connections out of that. Lots of opportunities for sure.
There's some opportunities too elsewhere outside of social media. So I know we're going to touch on this as time goes on here, but this isn't just a social media thing. People look at influencer marketing and UGC and they say like, okay, that's for social media, that's for my social team, and that's it. And that's wildly inaccurate. A lot of times the most success we see out of getting like UGC or relationships with influencers is leveraging all of that creative in other areas. And so for Malvule specifically, you could take a lot of this content and put it on your website. Hey, here's, maybe you've got a set of pans that you sell. Here's a 15 videos that we were tagged in of people using this set. So you can see it in real life. It helps with sizing of certain things. It helps with like what the true color may look like. So like there's things like that that you can use outside of the social side. Another one we looked at was plumbing deals.
Yeah, so this one, very similar to kind of the comment that Andrew and I made earlier with the heavily graphic design content. Again, it's one of those things where at one point there definitely is the value to it, and there's a time and a place, but definitely when it comes to trying to get reach and trying to get engagement and ultimately growing, social is just not moving into that direction. And so I think the graphic design content, I think, could significantly be decreased. Obviously leaning in with the contractors, in some of your Instagram and also the TikTok space, there was definitely some of that architectural elements to it when it came to some of the bidets and things like that. So that could be something from a creator aspect that you could lean into. Some other things that I had thought of was, some of the how-to instructional, I struggled saying that word, and what to look for guides are also really helpful. So for homeowners, things like that, hey, if you see a leak, this is potentially what the issue is, or hey, here's some plumbing things, or did you know this quick hack, something like that. And same thing with TikTok content, a lot of those helpful guides, those tips and tutorials, those tricks, those will go a long way. And again, it's building that brand resonance, so then that way I'm like, hey, if I do have a leak or something, wait, I know that they can help me with it, or they might be able to, offer me the product solution to my issue. And so it's building that reliability, that trust. And then obviously Andrew from the ad side as well, that'll just further help, kind of build and scale that brand as well.
Yeah, exactly. This was one of those brands where I wanted to make sure that we addressed the thing that we hear a lot about is like social media is not for me and I don't have a sexy product line. So like, why would I do this? One of our biggest brands from a social media perspective that does pretty damn well from an engagement side of things sells dirty construction stuff. Like there's nothing sexy about it. It would be something that you would just bypass, but we have gotten it to a point where we've got so many people actually submitting content to us just because they want to get featured that we now have a ton of UGC of people using these different tools and all these different accessories on like how to do this and how to do that. And it's other businesses creating the content. And we're like, screw it, let them. As long as they're using our product, that's perfect. And we're just going to take it and be like, yeah, they're right. This is how you do that using our machine and using this. And so we reshare that kind of stuff. So like content, even in the industrial space, there are absolutely ways to do it. It's just how you do it and how you make it entertaining enough where you can actually bring in that audience is what kind of makes that big differentiator. So the UGC versus the influencer side. So the UGC side, I know Hannah's going to touch on like the face of the brand concept here. The UGC side, the clear differentiator is you're paying someone to make you content. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. And then they're signing like, yes, you can use it wherever you want. Influencers, obviously being a little bit more on we're paying you to not just create as content, but to also show it to your audience. And so those tend to be the two big positions. But Hannah, I'll let you dive in deeper on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So the note there with can serve as the face of your brand. So that's something that we're also seeing across the board as well as the consumers are trusting the creators, not necessarily the brands. And so having that face, that people can go to, that people, recognize we're seeing huge for brand, not only just awareness, but also overall growth and scalability. And that's something where if you have or are working with an influencer, again, you're leveraging their audience to, grow your reach essentially. But from the user generated content side of things or the creator side of things, you can essentially pick who your creator is. And then you can actually, you can for influencers as well too, but tell them, hey, this is what I want you to say. You don't want to get too heavily into the scripted where it just sounds like someone's just reading off of a script, but you can give them the parameters. Here's kind of how I want you to phrase the brand. Here's how I want you to frame it. And it's essentially taking your entire brand image of how you view the brand, putting it into a person, and then having that person leverage their authenticity, leverage what they do best, which is creating, and then spreading that message out to your audience. And then obviously if you do it from the influencer side, their audience as well. And so that's something where, again, the whole paradigm is now consumers are trusting the creators, not necessarily the brands, but it's about finding a way to kind of, I guess, merge yourself in there. So they're technically still trusting you. You're technically still in the driver's seat. It's just about kind of doing things a little bit differently. So that's what we're noticing a lot too.
Yeah. On the influencer side, we actually just had a great question from Heather Duvall. Thank you for asking that, because that was I did remember I wanted to bring that up. The question is, if an influencer tags us in a video, does that automatically mean we can use it in our website, or is there a proper protocol we should follow? So for the UGC side, you're paying someone to make you content. The agreement you have with them should absolutely be, I'm going to use this wherever I want. Maybe there's certain UGC creators where they're like, no, I just want it on social, or that's it. But most of the time, all of those agreements should be aligned with, you can use it wherever you want. Influencers, it depends on the agreement that you put in place with them. However, I'm assuming in this scenario, since you're talking about they tagged you in a video, that means it's an existing influencer that just decided to use your product, which, by the way, good for you, because that's the best thing you want, is free publicity from them. But to say there's a proper protocol, I would not be able to be like, here's what you have to do every time. I would say it is in your best interest to do what is right, which is contact that influencer and ask if it's okay for you to use that video in another situation. I would also extend the offer to them of, we really are happy that you like our product. We'd love to possibly talk to you about doing additional things in the future, or something where they can feel like maybe they're going to get more out of it in the future. But at least from that scenario, you should always ask them. Now, you can just go ahead and reshare it. As long as you credit them, there's nothing wrong with it. Everyone on social is totally fine with it. It's just if you use it off the platform, so you're exporting that content and using it elsewhere, it's usually best to ask them and get permission, simply because it is technically theirs. And if you export it from the platform and use it elsewhere, it's always up in the air on how much of that is actually public.
Yeah.
But to the influencer side, and I'll let you have that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one thing also too, Heather, to know is from the influencer side, it's cultivating a relationship too, right? So it's the importance of, reaching out to them, but also just having that conversation and just that mutual connection. And that way you can grow trust within that influencer, and also that influencer can grow trust with you within that brand as well. And so that's also something to touch on as well. Influencers, as mentioned in the previous slide, there is a lot of similarities between influencers and creators. The biggest one, though, is that influencers, you are leveraging their audience. So obviously the content that they create, of course, you can have a collaboration post, you can, reshare that onto your creative, but the whole purpose is for them to share it to their audience. So then that way you're building that recognition to people who maybe you otherwise wouldn't have gotten, without their support, without their, engaged audience from that side of things. But from the overall, testing opportunities, the ability to script, the types of content, having a face of a brand, a lot of that's interchangeable. Again, the biggest differentiator is going to be influencers. You are going after their audience. So if you're looking to drive more traffic, if you're looking to get more reach, if you're looking to expand out your brand outside of just the normal efforts that you're doing internally within your marketing channels, influencer marketing is by far the best and easiest way to go about it.
The different levels. This one's always an interesting conversation. So this always comes into the big questions always that I know everyone's always waiting for, is like, what do I pay an influencer, right? Like, they're all very different. You could have what would be considered like a nano or a micro influencer, and they could charge you an arm and a leg. And you've got others that could be huge with a ton of followers, and they really don't charge that much. There's things you always want to look at, which is, when you look at nano, micro, macro, mega like that, those are kind of how you label the different sizes of them. It's not always based off of followers, right? Like, you can buy followers. It's pretty easy to do. And so there are people out there with hundreds of thousands of social media followers that then post something and have like 3 likes because they're all bots or they're all just completely fake. So it's looking at that overall engagement rate. And so when you're having these conversations with influencers, I'm not a big believer in what a lot of people refer to for the rule of thumb, which is it's like $10 per post for every 1,000 followers. I hate that because you could easily get hundreds of thousands of followers and charge an obscene amount of money, but really only reach like 0.5% of that actual audience. So whenever we're working with influencers, we always want to look at how much impressions is your post getting on average, and then how much engagement are your posts getting on average. And we start to evaluate their actual engagement rate. So we're not looking at it from a follower perspective. We're actually looking at it, for all of our fellow advertisers out there, we're looking at it more from like a CPM. Like, how much is it going to cost me to reach 1,000 people, at least get 1,000 eyeballs? Whether they engage or not, or whether they convert or not, is obviously a different story and not entirely up to the influencer. But their job is to get you those eyeballs, and you should be paying them based on eyeballs, not based on followers.
Yep.
What did I miss here? Oh, the power of engagement vetting. I know you've got, what's your thoughts on that?
You said for vetting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, vetting takes time, to be very honest with you. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Like we said, the engagement rate. You can get even real in the nitty gritty when it comes to looking for comment pods. So comment pods is a big one. We've seen an uptick on LinkedIn. We've seen an uptick on Instagram and Meta, where it's just essentially a group of creators. And I actually funny enough, I found a Facebook group that literally promotes just this, where it's like, they're like, hey, we made a post, everyone go like and comment. It's like, they don't know who these people are, or they're, and it's to essentially boost the algorithm. And so you can begin to track post by post by post where the comment pods are and things like that, because the comment pods inevitably also boost impressions and boost engagement, but it's going to people that maybe aren't actually wanting to buy anything or engage with anything. It's just, hey, I'm going to boost up this creator because, it's an exchange. And so it can be a very, dicey, overall engagement process, but that's something where for us internally here, we really take into big consideration the vetting process and making sure that we're looking deep into what these creators are generating, what they're doing, how their engagement is actually being engaged with by consumers, if it's genuine, if it's bots, things like that. And there is ways to go around it, but it is a process. I'm not going to lie, and it does take time to make sure that we are authenticating, the creators that we're working with. It's important to protect the brand in that aspect.
Yeah. Taylor asked a question on how do you connect with creators or influencers that would be relevant to your brand. So we're going to touch on how to connect with them, but it does kind of spark a reminder of when I look at how you start to outreach and how you figure out the levels of influencers and stuff you should work with, I always look at this almost as like influencers are almost like a client of yours, right? Like you want to build that, you want to ease into it, and then you want to build that relationship with them. And then you want that relationship to last as long as physically possible if it's a good relationship. We've worked with tons of brands where they get one good influencer and they're set for a while. That person only needs to post every now and then. They really like the product and you're good. So what are you doing to not only make sure that influencer is paid and, that you're handling all that aspect, but like, hey, when's their birthday? What else do you have going on? Like, stay on top of like keeping them happy, because a lot of people see influencer marketing. They go, oh, I have to keep finding new influencers and new content creators, etc. It's not the case. What you really need to do is just build a solid base of a relationship with a bunch of them, and then just keep that relationship going so that you're not constantly recycling through new ones. And so a lot of that is just relationship building. So again, a couple of people that joined us today. So Sandisk, Hannah, what do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely some heavy UGC opportunities from creatives. So, just given the brand itself, all levels. So, I mean, looking at the TikTok and also looking at the Instagram side of things as well, lots of very, very nicely crafted video content on there, and so leveraging a lot of creators that obviously have that skill set, but then also too, starting off with newer creators or people that might be new to the game. So then that way you can target also a different type of audience as well that maybe aren't at that skill level. You could also look at potentially like tech influencers. Tech maybe isn't the best word, but more of that creative influencer type of style. So, the cameras, the photography, a little bit of the tech as well, and leaning more into that niche and getting some of that word of mouth out either in the UGC or in the influencer space if you're looking for additional reach. Oh, and then also same thing with the tutorials and things like that.
Yeah. Sorry, gun shy. Or
nope.
Trigger happy.
There you go.
Thrival. There's a ton of stuff we could do here. This one, we actually already work with a brand on in like the fitness space. It's not the same product line, but like this one you almost have the opposite problem where there's so many of them that you really have to do your due diligence. Like you really got to get good numbers. Like what's the CPM you're going to see? What's their engagement? Have they done posts in the past? What are their posts like? What is their audience like? Because sometimes you can get great engagement, but then you look into the audience and you go, wow, for whatever reason, this person does not align with what we're looking for. So that always becomes kind of interesting. But then there's even the B2B element of it, right? Like a lot of brands think that if they have a B2B side to them, that this isn't really the approach they should take, but that's not the case. There's a ton of influencers out there that are B2B focused. So there's a lot of, for example, like for this, let's say you're focusing on like gyms. There's a countless amount of influencers out there that focus on how to grow your gym, not just like how to, have fitness recovery and stuff like that. And it's the same thing with like chiropractors. There's a ton of people that focus on other chiropractors. So there's different ways that you can look at that kind of stuff. What else did you see? Anything else on this one?
No, that pretty much touched it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, this one, it's like you could do nano and micro influencers all day long. Like go for it. There's countless of them. The question is like, how much of that do you want to do and how much do you want to kind of focus on it? And then this is the part that using your content that I really wanted to make sure that, we included in this event today. This is where I always find brands mess up the most. A lot of brands will work with influencers or they'll get UGC. They will republish it to their social media platforms. And then maybe in a perfect world, they might also use it in their social ads. And 9 times out of 10, that's it. That content doesn't get put on their website. It doesn't get put in emails. It doesn't get put on like marketplace listings. Like you name it, it should be used. So UGC, because it has this like natural look to it, or even just influencer posts, because it has this natural look to it, it's your proof that there are real life people out there using this product. So you're used to like, years ago, everyone leaned in on reviews and like, look, we have 5 stars and like, you look at all these reviews we have, but they're written and no one likes to read. Most people are visual learners. So when you see, here's a ton of video or a ton of pictures of real life people using our product, it makes you see that, oh, wow, there's a lot of people out there using this. So one of the ways that we look at using this type of content is, let's say you're able to gather a bunch of UGC, maybe you're able to gather some influencer marketing as well. There's the obvious side of the influencer marketing side, right? They're going to publish that to their audience. Great. One of the things you can absolutely look at doing there is a post partnership with them through your advertising. So you can actually boost their ad for them, or you can even use it as your own advertising without having to get access to their account. So it's a paid partnership. And so you can actually make sure that more eyeballs see that post. So if you see someone with a decent engagement rate and a big follower base, and you know that you want to reach more of their followers, you can put a budget in place for that post to reach more of their own followers. And or you can find ways to use it for your own advertising. So that'll help the influencer side. The UGC side, yes, the obvious is let's post it on your social media platforms. Let's make sure we tag them all with the type of post it is and evaluate like what types of posts are going to be doing the best. But then it's taking that same content and putting it into an email marketing campaign and using them in there, or putting them on your landing pages or your product pages or on like your Amazon listings, and using them within like product imagery, like show them like, hey, here's really, well-designed or well photographed imagery of the product. Here's call outs, infographics, size charts, that kind of thing. And then maybe like, here's 3 or 4 videos of people using the product so they can see it in real life. So it's that kind of like lifestyle imagery. And from the social side as well, so if you're posting it on social media, so you get a ton of great UGC, you get a ton of great influencer marketing, you post it on your regular social media platform, have a small boost budget. Boost that post. Get more eyeballs on it. Facebook, Instagram, etc. They're all going to let you know, like, hey, this post outperformed that post, blah, blah. Add another $20 to it to get more eyeballs on it. Screw it. Put $100 behind it and get a bigger reach. Because if you can get that bigger reach, chances are that post isn't entirely as sales focused as I'm sure if you're an owner of your business that you would like it to be. But what you have to think about is what you're getting. It's a top of funnel approach. So if you boost that post, it's a UGC post, you boost it, you now have more eyeballs on it, you have more views of it, you had more engagement of it. Your social ads should be retargeting people that have recently engaged with your social media posts or became a recent follower or viewed certain videos, let's say 50% or more. So your social ads now have a warmer audience to focus on. So if you've got a really nice middle of funnel process in place for your social advertising, using this is a great way to fill that middle of funnel without having to educate too much with a top of funnel approach, which tends to be very expensive. Did I miss anything on that?
Nope, I think you covered it.
I kind of got on my high horse for that one. I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, not a problem. I mean, from the organic and the paid side of things, just as what Andrew talked about, a lot of it can be used. What you're putting out on organic can most of the time be also leveraged to boost your paid as well. I mean, what we're seeing from a paid side of things is definitely, leveraging that UGC, leveraging that for your meta creative can definitely boost and also help, because again, the graphically designed image, I mean, when you're scrolling on Instagram or even on TikTok in some of those cases from those ads, and you're just seeing sales, while there is a time and a place for that, and it is helpful to have it in the caption or things like that, we want it to look as authentic as possible to even use that to boost the sales process of things. And so even leveraging UGC creators or influencers strictly for, paid channel efforts, and having that, like I said, be scripted, not just sitting in front of a screen, but having them use what they're good at, which is that creation, to essentially sell and leverage it on your paid media channels for sure.
Yeah. There's a book. Actually, hold on. Got it. Here we go. I got to find it later. It's called Jab, 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 Right Hook from Gary Vaynerchuk. It's probably like, it might even be 10 years old at this point. The thing that's crazy about it is it still stands true. It's calling out stuff on like what to do on Facebook that like, you don't need to really do that anymore. But like the concept is your jab, jab, jab is like just an engagement post. Just you're not trying to sell anything. You're just trying to bring in an audience. Jab, jab, jab. And then every now and then you hit them with a right hook with the sale. And so for the organic social side, that still stands very true of, you really want to make sure most of your posts, like 9 out of 10 at least, are not sales heavy. They shouldn't be heavily designed. They really shouldn't be promoting a product like direct out. It should be more subtle. And then every now and then, if you have a new product that's launched or you have a new sale, then you hit them with that right hook and you offer that. And part of that reason is the way that these platforms work. If you have a post that does really well and you get a good amount of engagement on it, your next post should also be in a better position to do really well. So it actually will slowly start to build on itself where, okay, this post actually reached X percent of your followers because it was a very engaging post. So your next post is probably going to see more eyeballs. If it does get that same engagement that the last one got, we're going to keep doing that. And so it actually will allow your algorithm to show to more of your followers than it normally will. So if you hit them with a bunch of sales that it's just constant, like buy this, buy this, buy this, that no one is engaging with, you're actually slowly starting to hurt your own social posts over time. So if anything, it's just like, it's kind of like email, where if you email people over and over and over and over and over again, it doesn't work as well as you want it to. But if you hit them with a bunch of crap or you don't email them for a long time, it goes stale. And then the next time you do it, you can't reach anyone. It's a relatively similar problem with social media of overselling. And then by the time you actually you actually want anything out of them, you've hurt that algorithm way too much anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's another one. So Jamali Garden, what'd you find?
Yeah, so same thing. A lot of the graphic design posts. So again,
yeah,
kind of what we talked about. That's a big one. But what was interesting with them, and where I see a lot of opportunity as well on Instagram and on TikTok, is definitely in the event sphere. And so I think leveraging creators and influencers in that. So upcoming weddings. This is who I worked with. This is take a look at my arrangements. Event planning is really, really big in terms of people looking for ideas for upcoming birthday parties, anniversaries, weddings, etc. And so that was something huge that I think they could really lean into, especially from the inspiration side of things. Just more of that top of mind, hey, I saw a creator and I really liked how they did it, so I'm going to buy the exact same thing so I can replicate what they just did for their event or whatever they have going on.
Yeah. You know what this reminded me of, actually? I totally forgot about this. I think there's an app on Shopify, and I can't remember the name of it. I apologize. I will see if I can find it and I'll send it out. There's an app where you can actually, it'll integrate with your Shopify account. And I'm sure they probably got similar ones for like WooCommerce or BigCommerce. And it will actually pull in all of your customer data and tell you how many followers your customers have. So you can actually see if there are influencers that have already shopped with you that might be worth reaching out to. So like a scenario like this, where it's kind of B2B-esque, there's a good chance that you've got purchasers, that existing customers that already have a big following base because they're showing you how to decorate for this wedding or how to set up for this party or something like that, that probably have a huge following, that are just making content for themselves. And you can reach out to them and be like, hey, next time, if you wouldn't mind mentioning us and plugging us, I'm happy to give you X% off your next order, or however you want to do that. So that's another very interesting thing to look into, so that you're not just blindly hunting for influencers. They very well could already be in your customer base and you just don't know it.
Yep.
Mustang Survival.
Yeah, so this one I was actually very impressed with when it came to the video creation and just that elevation of the brand. There's a lot that I could tell that went into the overall content creation, whether that be internally or even, if they've worked with UGC creators in the past. One thing, though, that I find particularly interesting with this brand is really leveraging more of that rugged content. So I'm almost thinking now kind of taking a step backwards and having more of that authenticity of just outdoorsmen. Hey, we're out on the boat, we're out ice fishing, here's everything that we're doing. Maybe I'm from Wisconsin, I don't know how to fish, but this is how we do all of this outdoorsy stuff. And then they have on their protective gear, their safety gear, and having that almost kind of be like a product feature, but then also tying in the importance of when you're out on the ice, when you're out on the lake, when you're out in the ocean, why it's imperative to have this, sort of protective gear as opposed to something else, and why that investment matters. But having that come from more of a rugged approach when it comes to the content creation. So this was something very interesting because, again, they have that polished look to it, and it's beautiful content, really it is. And I would be curious to see how that would work on the flip side, where you have someone more just with their phone, like, hey, we're out on the water, this is what we're doing, this is what we're seeing.
Yeah, exactly. So I know I wanted to touch on this one too, because I looked at it and I was like, yeah, this seems to be in the right direction. What I was curious about is like, how are you leveraging this stuff? And that was where I was like, okay, that's where this gets kind of interesting. So to your point, this is a weird, and if you're watching, you can see we've got their information down at the bottom. So it's at Mustang Survival for TikTok and Instagram. You'll kind of see what we're referring to. It's UGC stuff, but it's clearly shot on a pretty nice camera, right? So it's still a little too polished because it could still blend in. However, that's where this also becomes an open conversation of there are brands where that very much aligns. If you're going for more of a premium approach, having that kind of, kind of natural-esque feel could be a little bit off in certain scenarios. So that could be stuff that would do really well for stories, but maybe it doesn't bog up in the actual feed. However, the one thing that I noticed is that none of the UGC style video that I saw was actually getting replicated and used in most of the social ads you had in place. So a lot of your social ads are pretty heavily designed, kind of a lot more polished than even some of the UGC videos. For the social ad side, one of the things that we really like to look at is can we boost more UGC related posts on organic social so that we can get a bigger audience to then hit the middle of funnel? Or B, can we take that UGC, create ads, and have more, like maybe our approach is literally just getting video views, and then we're retargeting them with more ads that could be a little bit more polished. So the first ad or two that I want them to see, I want it to blend in to social media so that it naturally is like, oh, here's another post. Oh, here's another post, as opposed to here's a post, here's an ad, here's a post, and then they just pass by it. So I want it to kind of naturally become something they look at. And then if they show interest, then I might start hitting them up with some more polished posts. How to source them. We're already 55 minutes into this. So I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously when it comes to influencers and creators, there's a ton of platforms out there, Grin, Aspire, all sorts of stuff where there's a pool of influencers that you can, source, vet, and it's just pretty much readily available to brands. And a lot of things, and the value of the platforms are in the accessibility for one, but then also almost kind of like the project management streamlining of it. So a lot of things are built in. So once you agree and you make an agreement with an influencer or creator, everything is done within that platform. So you can go ahead and ship out, you can go ahead and track their results. All of the communication is within one platform, and really foster the relationships that way, which, does have a lot of value and a lot of potential, in them. But then Andrew, on the next slide here, to kind of continue my note, there is also a downside of platforms as well, in the sense that a lot of these creators, that while they're available and accessible within the platform, they still need to be vetted. They still need to be, the relationships still need to be formed, and there's a lot of time and, obviously if you're investing in a platform, also money investment that comes with that, to make sure that you're still doing the work of the sourcing and authenticating process of getting an influencer or a creator. So that is an option from the platform side of things. But Andrew, did I miss anything from that side?
Yeah, actually, one thing I was thinking about that we forgot to mention. So one of the value side of platforms is that some of these platforms also have either integrations with or the existing functionality of like affiliate platforms, right? So you can vet your influencers and you can get them all set up within the system, give them their own affiliate link. And now not only are you doing influencer marketing with them, in some cases they can do affiliate stuff. The downside of that is almost every single one of these platforms is very much built for the general concept of brands. So they try to do it where like some brands are going to fit into this. A lot of brands, the ones that have the most success specifically with influencers, are the ones that kind of build out custom relationships with them, which is like, hey, we're going to give you X%, or we're going to pay you this, but then we're also going to give you X%, or we're going to give you X%, but if you actually sell this much, we'll give you Y%, and maybe we'll also send you this gift. Or like, there's kind of those nuanced things that you really want to make sure you're cultivating this relationship with the influencer. And the problem is these platforms, they're so like, they pigeonhole you so much that you can't get creative with a lot of them. So you're kind of stuck just being like, sorry, this is all I can offer you because it's all the platform lets me do. So that's where the value of more of the hands-on approach comes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the hands-on approach is very boots on the ground mentality. So that's really just, finding groups of influencers or, reaching out directly on some of these social media platforms. If you see a creator that you really like and you're like, hey, will you be willing to try out my product? A lot of these creators, they have their, work email or their link tree with, a place to send it with a PO box or something. And so that's also a way that you can leverage finding these creators and, these influencers as well. And then that way you can kind of cultivate it and make it be exactly what you want it to be. So if you want it to be paid, if you want it to be product for posting, if you want to have that negotiation process in terms of, hey, this is what my product is valued at, this is what I think a fair exchange would be, whatever the case may be, this would be a very more moldable process for a lot of brands to go through. However, there is a lot of time investment into that as well. And that's something where, very similarly to the platforms, you still have to vet out, you still have to kind of do the work. Just because they shoot really, really good content, just because they make the style videos that you like, again, it's I guess more so on the influencer side, it's what will they do with that content? What will that content turn into? From the UGC side, it might be a little bit more valuable in your approach, because then you can take that content and then you have full control of where you want to post that and, kind of be in control of your results. But from the influencer side, it can be a little bit more time consuming on the brand side to make sure that they're doing the proper research and vetting, to ensure that who they're choosing to go into essentially a contractor business with is going to be the best fit for their brand.
Yeah. So all this stuff that we talked about today, as we start to slowly wrap this stuff up, and we'll make sure to give some stuff away towards the end here. Obviously, we've put a lot of this stuff into place, and it's all about the process that you put into place and then just the consistent testing, just like anything else you would do in a marketing strategy. So this is stuff we've done for a ton of brands. This was a case study. Actually, if you head over to our website, you'll see we did this brand, we actually did a whole rebranding and then did a bunch of stuff with them on social that was just a complete game changer for a lot of what they did. So if you head over to BlueTuskr.com, you'll see in our work section that we've got that stuff there. But obviously, if this is something that you've started to think about that you want to really start to kind of look at, we're more than happy to set up a call with you. Obviously, that's going to be partially what we give away today, to kind of do a little bit of an audit of what you have in place. But our overall process is really what we also suggest if you're doing it internally, in which case you're looking at, you got to allocate X amount of hours to dealing with influencer management, UGC, whatever's needed for all of your marketing strategies at that time. So you might need a ton of content for new assets that you're building. So you're going to want to lean on the UGC side. Or maybe now you can start looking at, all right, how do we get more eyeballs? We need more top of funnel traffic. Let's focus on the influencer side. So we look at it like this is all one big initiative of working with content creators and managing that relationship. Then it comes down to making sure that you basically have a library of all of this content so that it can be easily passed off to your social ads team, who can then help evaluate your social media team by telling them, by the social media team telling your social ads team, hey, here's our top performing posts. Let's boost these. So your social ads team can not only boost those posts, but then make sure that they're set up for retargeting through your middle of funnel audience. And so all three of those different departments are working together to make sure that your social media is working cohesively. And then that entire library needs to be available to your retention marketing team, your web design team, customer service, anyone who is going to start to leverage that content, whether it's through your email marketing, your website design, or whether it's on a PDP or an Amazon listing or anything like that, where you can start to put this content out there. So it's making sure that everyone is on the same page and that everyone's aware when this content becomes available. So it also comes down to organization of that content library. So of course, that comes to our end. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please let us know. However, I know we went a couple minutes over here, so we are going to wrap it up. If you are open to looking at getting that free meta ads review, as well as that 30-minute social media consultation, we're just going to offer it to everyone. I think we should be okay. However, with how many people attended this, I'm kind of biting my tongue on that. So please bear with us if we can't talk to you for like a week or two. But shoot me an email. It's andrew@bluetuskr.com. That's BLUETUSKR.com. And we will happily get you set up so we can help you do both that meta ads review as well as your social media to kind of show how you can bring it all together. But otherwise, I will also send out an email for anyone who just forgets. But then we did it.
We did it. That was fun.
We did it. That was fun. That was a good one. If you have any, I'm going to shoot out an email with more information on this, but I will also say when you get that email, feel to reply if you have any questions. I know we kind of went over, so I don't want to take up too much more of everyone's time. So we'll wrap stuff up here, but please feel free to email me if you have any questions. But thank you all for your time today, and we wish you all the best of luck.
Thanks, everyone.